Alrighty. Good morning, everyone. Maria Gonzalez here with Vida Del Norte and Coffee and Conversation. This morning we have William Borges on here to talk to us just a little bit about his journey and how he's come to where he is in living life at this moment. Welcome this morning, William.
Thank you. Good morning.
So why don't you just tell us a little bit about why you joined our coalition and one of the maybe some visions that you'd like to see in the direction that it goes.
Yes. Well, I joined. It's been I think about 5 or 6 years ago. I was invited by Gina Perez. She used to be the doctor at Cuesta Clinic, and I had told her my story. I'm a former drug addict, and she said she was interested for me to join to get my input, and so I've been with the Vida Del Norte ever since. And my vision is I'd like to see the youth in this area to overcome some of the obstacles that have been put before them, and to learn some good coping skills, and instead of resorting to substance or alcohol misuse, and just to see the youth step up, maybe even bring some of the youth into some leadership roles, help build them up into leadership roles.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you mentioned coping skills, and that's something that has been a conversation that's come up actually quite a bit over the past couple of weeks. So when you talk about coping skills, what do you think would be beneficial for them to know? Because like I know you mentioned that you are a former addict, and you've told your story several times, and you talk about how it started as a teenager, and maybe not having those coping skills. So what do you think would be beneficial for our kids to learn?
Well, I know some goes through some crisis at home, and I don't know what some young people they deal with various things at home, and it would be beneficial that they wouldn't resort to using these drugs or alcohol to cope with, but instead to become leaders, and to be able to lead other students into a better lifestyle. I know it's good to talk about things. I came up from going through recovery. We had meetings, we'd sit down in a group setting, and we would talk about our issues, and then we'd listen. We wouldn't try to fix each other, but we would just listen to each other speak about the stuff that we've gone through, and it's really beneficial instead of holding our feelings in, or holding in our anger, or our sorrow, our griefs. When you talk about them, it releases them, and when people learn, and it also helps to learn how to listen to someone else. You gain empathy to understand it. If a person's going through something, they can, when they hear somebody else's story, they realize that they're not alone in their struggles, because everybody has the same struggles. Everybody has issues in their lives, and that's what I learned, is what I wasn't alone in my fight to get into recovery.
So not being alone, and I guess sometimes, because recently I've been reading about like adolescents and their behavior, more so because my kids are dealing with some anxiety and depression, having to be home all the time, and had a conversation with them this weekend, and it was about, like, okay, well, what's going on? And both of them, they share a room, and they're the only two that are usually at home together, because I'm here at the office, and then Jason's at work, and Araceli, she goes to work the majority of the time too, so they're always home. And so one of the things was that they're constantly fighting, and they said that they feel alone. They feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. And it's, I mean, it's not true. They have us, and they know that, but there's a barrier where they're feeling like they don't have anybody. So I don't know if, because you kind of talk about how, you didn't have to be alone in recovery, because I mean, recovery can look many ways, right? I mean, yes, it's,
Yeah.
we talk about it in the drug world, in the alcohol and drug use world, but I mean, recovery can mean many things. We can be recovering from trauma, we can be recovering from a death, we can be recovering from childhood, just in general, I mean, puberty. There's so many different things that mean recovery. So I don't know what you mentioned, that being able to talk about it with people who are going through the same thing. Do you think that that's beneficial for adolescents as well?
Very much, very much. There's been mentors in my life that I was able to share, some of the stuff I'm going through, and they kind of helped me walk through certain struggles I've gone through in my past. And recovery, I mean, it is a wide range. There's even like eating disorders. There's even youth that they cut themselves, and because they internalize their emotions, and it turns into that. And I've seen it hit the youth so many forms. It would, another thing is really helped me is to see the youth come into a spiritual life, because personally going into a spiritual walk, and for me, I'm a believer in Jesus Christ, and I serve here at the church here in Amalia, and it's taught me how to not just to serve in the church, but when you serve others, when you learn how to serve other people, you don't you forget about your own problems, because then you start seeing other people. When you start serving people, you think less of your own problems, and it kind of falls into place. Things work themselves out. The more you serve, the more things work themselves out in your own life, and you start gaining peace over it, and
Right.
serving in the community. That's why when I was asked to join Vida Del Norte, it was an opportunity for me to be able to serve the community, and to give back, because when I was an addict, I used to take, and now my life is about giving back, and giving into the community, and maybe impart something good to somebody else's life, and especially a young person's life, and see them grow exponentially, and overcoming, and basically overcoming challenges in life, to learn how to
Right.
overcome. And the more they overcome, the more success they have in their life, as they become adults, and find careers. It would really be beneficial when they get older, and it helps all the way around.
Right. And leading into that, you mentioned, giving service to others. Like I couldn't agree more. I've been serving this, well, not just this community, but I mean, also just helping out in Taos, when I worked in Taos. But I've been in this service field for 15 years now. 16 years. I'm going on 16 years. So it's been a long journey, and I've learned a lot, and I've learned about, the hardships that people go through in families, and, financially, and, with addiction and mental health issues. So there's so many different pieces of the puzzle that I think a lot of people miss when they talk about, when they're not, when they're just living their own life and not, you talked about, being in addiction. I've seen people in addiction and they do, just take and don't give back, and disrespect the people that love them and care for them. And it's, it's just this really vicious, ugly cycle that happens. And but also I kind of when you said that, I also think about teenagers and how they're similar to that. They take and they don't ever want to give back, and they're very self-centered, which is, I mean, it's part of that development. But I also saw this summer when our Activate girls, when my girls and Ashlyn and Kaylee, and they were serving at the food pantry, and giving of their service and of their time. I remember the first day that they helped out there. They came home and they were so excited because they didn't realize how many people were in need in our community. And they immediately said, we want to do it again. We're going back to help out. And they did. They helped out the whole rest of the summer until, really up until school started. And I think it was really beneficial for them to have that experience, because they'd get tired because the ladies weren't easy on them. They made them work, and they had to lift boxes, pack boxes. But I think it was really rewarding for them. I think one day they came home and they said they gave something like 250 boxes away, which is quite a bit for our community. And but it was rewarding for them, and they were pretty happy during those moments. So I think you're right. I think giving of themselves, and us giving of ourselves, it does create a better mindset and a better environment for not just us, but for our community. So, William, I kind of side drifted there, but you had this idea of starting a mentorship program, which we've started, and I mean, it's kind of heading in a different direction than I think you may have envisioned, but it's growing, and we're starting to see some progress. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I think idea came up because I was thinking about the mentors that I've had in my life, and as I was growing up. And there's even a teacher, like in 6th grade, I remember her name was Mrs. Deaver, and it's awesome that I can still remember. I don't remember her first name, but her who she was. Spent a lot of time. So I went through special ed, and she really put out the time to help me get educated and overcome my issues. One of my biggest issues growing up was anger issues, and she mentored me on how to take control of my anger and not let it burst out. And there's been other people that helped me deal with that. And another excuse or reason that I used was dealing with pain, the pain of rejection. I felt rejected as I was growing up. Felt rejected by my peers in high school. That was a big thing. Felt rejected by my dad and my stepdad. So overall, just the feeling of rejection, pain of rejection, I didn't know how to deal with. And but there's been when people invested time. There's another leader that when I was going in church, it was called Royal Rangers, and it's similar to Boy Scouts. And this leader, he would talk to me about my emotional state, and would take time to teach me, camping skills, how to start a fire, how to even put me to work because we would have it's called a powwow to cook, and it got me interested in cooking, and my mom, she would teach me how to cook as well, and so I worked in a lot of restaurants, and some of those skills that I was learning when I was being mentored, and in learning just a simple skill like cooking, it grew into interest on different items to cook, and I got specialized in stir fry, grilling, and barbecuing, camp cooking, cooking at camp. Um, there's and there's been a lot of other mentors that imparted certain things that it helped build my character. And even though I, you know, as I was going into adulthood and still struggled with stuff, I remember these things, and it helped me. When I remember those things, it helped me to recover. It helped me to get into recovery, and it helped me eventually to overcome the addictive behavior. But you know, I attribute it to the Lord Himself, because I tell people it was kind of a divine intervention that I went through. But all these mentors that I grew up and remembered, that they, just something that they'd said or something they taught me, helped me overcome a lot of stuff, and eventually overcome led me to where I am today, and to be able to pass it on, you know, and to pass it forward, things that I have learned from my past, the good things, you know, having good memories, you know, and when you have all these good memories, it kind of overcomes and uh, washes away the bad memories. Sorry, that's my clock. It sounds like
Um,
birds.
yeah, it's amazing how even just one simple word or a few words could really make an impact on someone's
Yeah.
life. Um, I recall like a priest who, when we were getting confirmed, he told us, go out and spread your wings, but remember your true faith. And I took that literally, because I really became, after I graduated high school, I ended up moving to Hawaii. And when I got out there, there were a whole bunch of different religions. There was, you know, there was Buddhism, Hinduism, and some Mormon that I kind of got introduced to. But it was really interesting because you know, being raised Catholic here, I wouldn't ever go to church at all. When I got out there, I'd go to mass every single morning, and I prayed the rosary on a regular daily basis. But I took his words literal, because I also got to learn about Hinduism and Buddhism. Those two I was most attracted to, you know, when looking at world religions. So, and it really did, it developed a spiritual peace in myself, because I was a lot like what you're talking about. When as a teenager, I was caught up in drugs and alcohol, and, you know, just doing a lot of risky behaviors. And you know, like you said, attributing it to that spiritual path of being able, having this like awakening to that there's a better life for me rather than just the drugs and the alcohol. And I think I really do, you know, I thank Father Young for those words, because when I did arrive in Hawaii, and I thank Hawaii for saving my life, because if it wouldn't have been for the experience that I had out there spiritually, I would have never, I don't think I would have ever entered into a place where I could say, I don't want to have this kind of lifestyle anymore. So I think you're right. You know, having that spiritual base is really important.
And also, what was I gonna say? Oh, I got my mind went blank. As students are dealing with stuff, another thing I was thinking of was for me, dealing with anger issues, and that was the root of a lot of my problems, because I internalized a lot of it. I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead if you got another question. My mind went totally blank.
Well, you mentioned internalizing problems, and I think that's a big issue for a lot of adolescents, is they don't know how to communicate with people. I mean, in particularly parents, they might be comfortable with other adults, and obviously so there's a lot of them may be comfortable with their peers. But I had this discussion with a class that I was teaching last summer about trust, and a lot of them really said that they don't really even trust their peers, even their best friends. Like it's like they have these walls built up where they feel like they can't trust anybody. And I think that resonated with me also. And thinking back to my own adolescence, is that I had some trauma happen to me that I never spoke about. It wasn't until I was 21 when I finally said something about it, and it had gone on for the majority of my adolescence. And so it really did create some mental health issues for me. I obviously I didn't realize that they were there until I started speaking about it. And but I always felt like I didn't have anyone that I could tell. And I always felt shame in what was happening to me. So I felt really shamed and shameful. So I was afraid to tell anybody. And I came close to telling one of my best friends one time, and I really regret not doing that, because I think if I would have told her something, she would have probably spoke up and told her parents, and then her parents would have probably got me the help that I needed. So I always encourage any adolescents or any kids to try to find someone that it's okay to tell those things to, because it helps. Like you said, when you talk about things, it brings things to light.
Releases them. Now I remembered was what I was thinking. So you were mentioning, building that trust. So I noticed a big disconnect from the youth and into adults, and there's like a separation there, and that was another reason for building a mentorship program, so that we can build relationship with the youth again, and the youth can build relationship with the adults again. And my vision for it is, and it's kind of scriptural, the older men would teach the younger, the young men, the youth, how to do things, and just basic life skills, and then us, in the setting that we're outdoor, I noticed that a lot of, with the coalition, with Activate, there's not much young men that want to be involved in stuff, but I want to be able to, get their interest in doing outdoorsy stuff, and get hunters and fishing guides and hunting guides involved, and even what's their names, the gentleman from Taos that runs the waste management, how to think about the environment and help it keep clean, and thinking about watershed, even our culture, our culture in this area, to learn to not forget those things, that their grandparents, or learn how to survive the way our grandparents used to, how to adapt to certain circumstances in life. And, like when electricity goes out, learn how to adapt to that.
Right.
How when our water heater would go out, we'd start boiling water to make our baths. And but I listen to stories of the elders, and not ignore the elders and say, oh, they're boring, but to sit and listen to them talk about how, our tia Lucy, she would tell so many stories about. I even have her book about how they used to survive back during the Depression days and stuff, and just learning how to just deal with life as it comes, and learning how to adapt to all the situations that come our way, but especially building trust between adult and youth, to rebuild that, because there is a big disconnect. And even with this COVID that's happened, it seems like they've gotten really, really disconnected, and I know there's a lot. They're agitated. They've been at home, and it's really the way our country is now. It seems like there's all kinds of division everywhere, and I just want to be able to build for our coalition to be part of building up relationships with the youth again, and seeing that they can trust. There are people out there that are looking out for them, and we could trust. And another envision that a pattern would be the men would teach the young men, and then the women would teach the younger women, and that would be a safe thing as well for mentors and the youth, so that nothing will go wrong in that matter.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get there, William. We're all working. We're all working on creating something, and hopefully, I don't know if you had an opportunity to hear the news last night, but the governor has allowed the students to go back to school. So I mean that opens up a lot for the kids. My kids had ear to ear smile, and we're really excited, and so they're definitely ready. So hopefully, as we start to get back to some kind of normalcy, we can start planning those types of things. And like we talked about in our meeting on Monday, we'll start out with some different programming, and then build the mentorship program out from there. So don't be discouraged that that's not going to happen, because it will happen, and we'll get there eventually.
Then there's a lot of people that share a little bit about it, and they piqued an interest. Her name's Debbie. She works at the pharmacy, and she had asked, and started talking, and I mentioned Vida Del Norte, and she tried to join, I think, months earlier, maybe even a year earlier, but somehow got disconnected from it, and she has an interest in teaching students how to make resumes. Right. And even teaching students, because she's trying to build up an animal rescue, a dog rescue, to get students involved with that, learning how to take care of the dogs, and seeing dogs that are in need. And it connects students, with having to take care of an animal. That opens doors for that to go. There's just so many doors that could be open with different mentorships, and whatever people have to be able to give their input and to join this mentorship program. It gets the community involved with our youth.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have the partnership with the school. They're on board. We keep on having these conversations, and like Miss Cintas and I talked about on Monday before our meeting, she did say, she said, it feels like we all have this vision. We just need to figure out how to get it together so that we're all in a cohesive flow, and we're all doing the same work together. So we're moving in that direction, and it is exciting. And so anybody who is watching, if you are interested in possibly assisting with that, get in touch with me, get in touch with William, get in touch with Miss Cintas. If you know Toner Mitchell, he's involved. Daniel Hutchinson is another one. Claire Cote, Gaia, with the farmers market. Any one of us would be happy to help get you connected with us, and starting to plan what we'd like to see our youth thrive in our community. So yeah, that's where we're at. Is there anything else burning, William, that you'd like to say, or anything? And if not, we can go ahead and close it up here.
I'd just like to say to any young person that might be watching or see this later on, if you're going through depression, find somebody to talk to. You don't have to go through that depression alone. If you're going through grief, find someone to talk to, because my wife and I, we're still grieving, but we go to our pastor from our church and talk to them, and there's people in the community that are wanting to listen and hear your story, and don't just keep it in or internalize it. Share your story with somebody, what you're struggling with, and they might not be able to fix anything, but just to release those emotions will help you very much, and also help you to overcome some of those things that you're going through. You're not alone with what your struggles are. We want you to know that you are not alone. There are people out here to help you and to listen to you.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on this morning, William. I really appreciate you and everything that you do to help with the coalition. You know, you and Nancy are really appreciated with all the work that you guys put in. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Right.
for
Have a
having
good
me.
day.
Yeah, have a good day. God bless.
God bless you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.